Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today I have the pleasure of having Rudy Lopez. Rudy is out of Oregon Catholic Press in Portland, Oregon. He is a artist, composer, and musician, and he's he's a specialist there for Hispanic music there at OCP. He'll be on the show in a moment. But before we get started, if you wanted to talk to Rudy, you can go ahead and pose a question in the chat room, or you can go ahead and call in at 347-324-3460. And before we begin, I'm going to play one of his tracks of his song, and then we will have him on the show in a moment. So again, this is Rudy Lopez, and the name of this track is called Elaborate. Well, again, that was with Rudy Lopez. He is an artist with OCP. Well, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. No, we had a few technical issues, but thank you for sticking in with us. I guess to begin with, kind of tell us about yourself. Where are you from and how you got started?
Well, I'm originally from Los Angeles, born and raised in East Los Angeles, California. My parents are from Mexico, from Jalisco, Mexico, and spent most of my childhood and young adult life there in Los Angeles. About 14 years ago, I moved to Portland, Oregon, along with my wife, Stella Garcia, who is sitting right next to me. And here she's going to say hello.
Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Hey. Great. Thank you for coming in and helping us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank
you.
Okay, great. I guess one thing, tell us about your music. How does the music come to you?
Well, the song you just heard is something that my wife and I wrote together. We have we basically, the only way I can answer that is through blood, sweat, and tears. It comes, we take it in any way we can get it. We both have wanted to be composers since we were in our, early 20s, and OCP was one of the companies we had hoped to have been published with. And finally, after many years of trying, we finally were able to get an album and a mass, and hopefully many more recordings. So it's all a process of working continually on projects and trying to find opportunities for composition. Here, I think my wife would like to say something.
Most of the music that was written in the Brilla Tu Luz collection was mostly inspired by our community. It's a very charismatic community, very lively, and so a lot of it was based on what the needs were at our parish.
Wow. Kind of tell us, which I've met you guys this Saturday in Dallas, one of your sponsored workshops, and you mentioned something really interesting, and I think a lot of people lump everything Hispanic all into one culture, which there is different subsets. I mean, you have styles and music from Mexico, some from Colombia, some from the Caribbean, some from Puerto Rico, some from Spain. Kind of tell us about that particular area of music and how it differs, and how really OCP, I know you've been really instrumental in kind of putting all these things together and to work on your Flori Canto book. Kind of tell us about those musical styles and why they're so different.
Sure. I'm going to let Stella answer that, since she was the project editor for Flori Canto.
Okay.
Yeah, Flori Canto, well, OCP has spent a lot of energy in producing resources for the Hispanic community for a very long time, and Flori Canto being one of those resources. For the first Flori Canto 1 and 2, we used a lot of music from Spain, a lot from Mexico, and a lot from many composers living in the U.S. And through the years, we've gotten requests to include more music from other Latin countries. And, you know, in the U.S., we usually think of Spanish music only as coming from Mexico. So for Floricanto 3, we took the opportunity to evaluate what other music is out there that will truly represent the Hispanic church of the U.S. And although this hymnal is not only popular, it is very popular in the U.S., it's also popular in many Latin countries. So from that research, we discovered a lot of music from Puerto Rico, from Chile, from the Dominican Republic, from many other countries in Central and South America. So we feel that Floricanto 3 better represents the Hispanic community in the U.S. And it was a long process, but well worth it.
What was the inspiration of coming with Floricanto 1, the series itself?
I'm sorry, did you say that again?
With Floricanto 1 and going to 2 and to 3, how was that inspired? That OCP decided to do a niche marketing effort? Because I know on your website you say now there's 25 million Hispanic Catholics in the U.S. When they looked at Floricanto 1, the first edition, how did that come about?
Well, in the Hispanic tradition, a lot of the music is learned by ear. Most people don't read music, and music just travels, and people just kind of hand down music from different areas. And in the U.S. especially, there was no resource that kind of gathered all of that music. Most Spanish choirs had their own custom-made binders with words-only songs, and they didn't know who wrote them. A lot of people like me thought Pescador de Hombres came from Mexico. It's like, yeah, my grandma used to do that. But, you know, of course, that's from Cesario Gavarain, who's in Spain. So what OCP did is it was spearheaded by Fritz Marr, who was the publisher at that time. And he said, we need to provide a resource that Hispanic choirs can use. There is no resource. So it was his vision to serve the community and to create a resource that would gather all of this music and put it into a hymnal. So thanks to his vision, we created Floricanto 1, 2, and now Floricanto 3.
And Tim, I would like to add that Floricanto 1 came, I think it was published in the late 80s, I believe.
Wow.
Yes, and it was an incredible inspiration for Stella and myself. We found ourselves being driven to want to be a part of this incredible movement that was happening in the U.S. In a sense, it was for liturgical musicians in the country. Floricanto became a cornerstone of repertoire that allowed for folks to fully express themselves and give them the tools to become a better, more sophisticated, not only liturgical musician but ensemble. So we with just being connected to it was just so important to us.
What does Floricanto stands for? The meaning behind it, do you know?
Well, Floricanto is Spanish for flower and song, and it is a representation of how the Mayan culture, I believe it was the Mayan culture, expressed their love for God. So they would gather and bring flower and song and offer it as prayer to their gods, and it became that kind of gesture became very prominent in the Catholic Church of the New World.
Mm-hmm. And because I'm noticing that with your particular style of music, it's kind of a mixture of. Did you take into account of the dressing they need with Floricanto 3 and taking those different musical elements throughout the world, and then as a composition major, put all of that into different elements with your compositions?
Yeah, Tim, one of the things that is so exciting is, of course, we as a country, the United States continues to evolve and morph into this new generation, this what I call the new melting pot, I suppose. And so one of the exciting things that comes along with that are the traditions and the cultures and the trends of this new generation. So along with that, you have the Hispanic community, which is people coming from many countries with many backgrounds who have a commonality of speaking the same language and being involved and worshiping in the same manner. They bring their identities, the identity of music, to this worship expression, and it shapes and molds and morphs into something new and exciting. So yes, Stella and I are sort of examples of that. We take our influences and try to incorporate them into the needs of the liturgical life of the parish. So you will hear rock, you will hear salsa, you will hear large choral music in our album, because that's who we are.
Well, we've been influenced by so many people. I mean, we come from a Mexican heritage, but we grew up here in the U.S., so a little bit of the American influence, a little bit of the Mexican influence, and the end result is what is in Brilla tu Luz.
Wow. Tell us about your latest project.
Sure. I'm going to let Sal start.
Okay.
Well, both Rudy and I are music ministers at our parish, and we're in charge of the Hispanic choirs, the adult and the children's choir. But before that, we've always written music, but a lot of our efforts with OCP have been in helping other composers with their music, and never really paid attention to what we could do. And finally, I told Rudy, we need to start writing our music. And some of it, well, come on, we're helping others, but the train is gonna pass, and then we're gonna say we never had time. And so I really pushed us to write music, and a lot of it was based on the needs of our parish, our community. And sometimes we were up late at night or really early in the morning because, we do work and we have kids and we have a life. But I think it was well worth the effort. A lot of this music we wrote for the Hispanic community, looking at the needs, and we tested it with them, and we saw how they responded. And a lot of this, helped us shape it. Okay, let's change the key. Let's do this. Let's do that. And to us, if you test it with the people and you read their faces, don't ask them what they think, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Just look at how they perceive it, their expression, and for us, we use that as a guide. And thankfully, our music has been successful not only at our parish, but now it's being used in other places, in other states, and especially with our bilingual mass. Now we hear about it at many different parishes that we visit, and so it brings joy to our heart, and it just kind of reinvigorates us to keep writing. It's like, whoa, I guess we're not so bad. We're okay.
How does it feel?
I'm sorry, I would like to add that the title, Brilla tu Luz, en medio de las tinieblas, translates to let your light shine in the midst of darkness. And it was a statement towards the darkness that we see among us, around us. And the song itself looks to Scripture to bring the references of light. In a sense, it's a call for us to be that light coming into the darkness. Dissipating, bringing clarity, bringing awareness, knowledge. So we're very proud of that particular piece of music, and it is a statement that we currently are trying to live.
Well, what does it feel like when you sit there in the congregation? I know at a convention is awesome. How does it feel that a piece of music is performed, or administered, rather, to a community who don't realize who you are, and you walk into that liturgy and you hear your music and see how the people enjoy it? How does that make you feel?
Well, we experienced that at where we met at the Institute in Dallas. At the morning prayer, one of our pieces was sung as as part of that morning prayer. And it's just, to me, it's very exciting. It's very affirming to have folks take a piece of music and incorporate it into their worshiping experience. So it's just a thrill and a joy to be able to validate the fact that what you thought would help someone is actually doing what you set out to do. So it's very affirming.
Wow. So how does your music come to you? Come in the middle of the night, or it comes during the day, or while you're driving and it is a thought? So how do you put your music together?
Usually what happens to me is I get a melody stuck in my head, or I have an idea for a text, and then I put a melody into it, but in my head. A lot of the shaping of music is in my head, and by the time I'm ready to write it down in music, it's almost all done, the structure of it. And wow. With Rudy, he works a little different because he's a composition major, and for him it's chords, harmonic structure, and all of that. And for me, it's melody, text, melody. I'm a melodist, I guess I can say, and Rudy is the harmony guy. So I think that together we have a great partnership. But I'll let Rudy answer.
No, I was just going to say that I'm the geeky, the very techy, part of the relationship, part of the collaboration team. So I spend a lot of time. I do take simple ideas and try to run them through all kinds of possibilities. And I'm really involved in all things techie. So I will sit and record and use tools like MIDI and other types of tools to sort of flush out the most what I feel is the most appropriate representation of those pieces.
And for me, if I don't shape it in my head, or if it does, if I can't remember it, then it's not worth it. I don't need to write it down because I'm going to forget the idea. I feel that if it's a good idea, it's going to come back and it's going to haunt you until you finally release it. So I guess we kind of have different strategies, but I think that in the end we complement each other.
How is it? I know you guys are with OCP, and a lot of artists across the country looking to try to get into with OCP. What advice do you have for them to submit their works to OCP?
What I would recommend is, first of all, submit your music to OCP for consideration. On our website, there is a section, I think it's called Submissions, and it gives all the details. But the most important thing that Rudy and I do, and that some other composers do, is test their music with their choirs in their community. Because you want to make sure that it's tested and it's well thought out through, and maybe even share the text with the priest, the pastor, and to make sure that it's sound. And if you do that and it's thought out, you have a better possibility of it being considered for the program. The other thing is look to see what areas we are lacking. What does OCP need? Or what does your community need that we don't have in our program? So, how many psalm settings of Psalm 23, can we possibly publish? It doesn't mean we can't use another good one, but maybe there's other areas that we've never touched.
I would like to add, Tim, that I think that one of the pieces that I would recommend for upcoming or folks who are interested in having their music published is to become aware of what's available. Visit the OCP site, listen to the song samples, become familiar with the composers, and also support the composers. And this goes for all folks who would be living Catholic life. Unfortunately, the music in Catholic worship is somewhat struggling, and it could definitely be helped with the support of all. So people buy the CDs, come to the workshops, support the concerts. Let people know that there is great music for Catholic worship, for the worshiping experience. So that's a big one. Just let support the whole creative process.
Wow. And so when they come to the conferences during the summers, make themselves known and try to reach out and just be real helpful. You mentioned something at the top of the hour, just, I guess, get involved, I guess, in one sense, and make yourself known to people like you. And maybe you might think of them in the future for a particular project. Hey, I need this particular sound for this. Or vocally, a musician, I want to mix this in. I mean, I guess it's just a circle of get into the system. If that's what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. I can give you an example. The collaboration that took place this Saturday at the event where you were at, the OCP Institute. The folks, Stella and myself, were folks who were flown in who were representing OCP. However, the rest of the presenters were local people. And we have, the reason we worked well was, or came to know each other was just for that reason that you mentioned, that we have connected, we have experienced each other's gifts, and therefore we felt that the folks in Dallas could bring something very important to the Hispanic community, to the Hispanic liturgical musicians of Dallas, and I think it was a great success. So yes, definitely get connected, get to know folks, let others know what your talents are, and also take into account and take into account the talent that others have.
What is your opinion where we are today in the Hispanic culture, musically in the church, and where we're going to be in the future? Do you see that a lot of communities are cropping up, and some of them are, I guess, is in one culture or another, but what do you see where we are liturgically? Are we at the beginning stages, or are we in the middle, or I know they have not reached the peak yet, but kind of tell us where we are in that particular stage, because you have always the balance of tradition and contemporary and folk. You have all that mixture. What do you think where we are today on that with our music?
I'll try to answer that. In the Hispanic culture, usually, especially in the U.S., you have many immigrants coming to the U.S. to find a better life for their families. And what ends up happening is that many of them seek more from the church than the Sunday liturgy. They go there to feel connected. So many feel hardships. And you may notice in the Hispanic culture there is a huge evangelization / charismatic movement, and also which uses praise and worship type of music. And so we are barely beginning to tap on that. Of course, we've known of it and experienced it ourselves for a long time. But OCP has primarily focused on liturgical music, and now we're getting to the stage of being able to address this other need of Spanish contemporary music for evangelization and all of that. So just like the first hymnal was published that would organize all of the liturgical music, which is found in Floricanto, now we are hoping to be able to tap into this evangelization movement and organize something to serve that area. Because, for the Hispanic community, Sunday liturgy is just not enough.
Well, I'd also like to add that as far as your question where we are, it's definitely in an infancy stage. Mm-hmm. One of the things that makes great music in a parish is tradition. Families being in the community for several generations. Grandma sings in the choir, daughter, granddaughter, that kind of thing. The Hispanic community is a migrant community. So there we are just at that stage where families are taking root and becoming part, long-term part of parishes and so forth, and folks that the talent is just beginning to really be exposed. So although it's in its infancy, there is so much hope. One of the beautiful things about it is that the Hispanic community is so young and so numerous. So there is a lot of talent out there, and we are just beginning to see this new culture, this new generation of Hispanics just beginning to blossom.
And also, the Hispanic community is so diverse. You have first-generation Hispanics, second-generation Hispanics, third-generation Hispanics. So their needs are different. I mean, the second and third-generation Hispanics are probably a mixture of using English and Spanish songs. So so their needs are different than the first-generation Hispanics. And then at some point, they cross over to English-only products. So we're analyzing all of that and making sure that we are truly serving the community and providing all of their needs.
Well, we're now in 2012, and if we go to, like, where do you see where we're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years as things change through this particular country in the United States? It'd be less people immigrating in, and as new second and third and fourth generations coming up, do you think the musical sense will start to change? Are they still going to keep the root foundation styles, or you think they're going to take it beyond that and have a mixture of being themselves, who they are at that moment?
That's a great question. I think one of I guess I can answer it in a couple of ways. One of the things that the church represents for a lot of these folks is that a connection to the old country. And so, second generation, folks that are maybe, in their 30s, 40s, who came to the United States, who were not born here, but who came to the United States, who immigrated to the United States, will always come with the vision of finding that place that they left. And the church really holds that, it represents that. So I think musically there will always be that return to those sounds, those rhythms of the country. Now, the other side of it is that now, even in my lifetime, I've seen musical styles evolve. There's a great style that's so exciting. It's called reggaeton, which is very, very rhythmic, very Caribbean, but it's been adopted by many of the Hispanic cultures. So it continues to evolve. If you listen to Brille tu luz, Alabaré al Señor, which you just heard, that has a rap section in it. I am a perfect example of that sort of fusion of sounds and styles, and so I love them. I want to use them, and I know they speak to many people. So yeah, it will continue to evolve. I just see this getting so much more exciting, bigger and bolder.
I will say a few words. I think that we will always have immigrants. I mean, we've had first-generation immigrants for a long time, and there will always be immigrants. So you will always have a first-generation Hispanic community with specific needs, and then a second and a third. And I don't see that changing. However, there's a lot of Hispanics like Rudy and myself that even though we grew up here and we've been Americanized, we love our culture. It's not just about language. It's the feel of the music, the styles, as Rudy mentioned, that feeds our spirit. And, a place where you feel like you that is who you are. And, I mean, even when we sing English songs or we write bilingual songs, we bring our rhythm to it, the Latin rhythm, that you may not hear in an English service. So it's more than the language.
Who do you actually, for both of you, who are you leaders? Who did you look up to make you who you are, that you took to cultivate your music?
Well, we have to start off with our parents, of course, because they're first generation immigrants. They came and they demonstrated a love for tradition, a love for working hard and moving forward. So they are truly the deepest influence in our lives. There are other people who we have taken, who we've been inspired by. I would have to say that many of our teachers, as we grew up and went through college and so forth. I'd like to mention a very special person who was Steve Grundy, who early in our career took us under his wing and really shaped us to become pastoral musicians. Not just musicians, but actual pastoral musicians. And that was a very important influence on us, because it allowed for us to really take on leadership roles in the church, not only locally but nationally. And we owe him a lot. The other people that I would love to mention are the OCP composers who inspired us through the years to want to be like them, have music published and be composers be composers of that type of music, sacred music. So I would love to throw out a big shout out to Jaime Cortez and Pedro Rubalcaba and Bob Hurd, Santiago Fernandez, Eleazar Cortez.
And all the Spain composers.
All of
Juan Antonio Espinosa.
Yeah, Juan Antonio Espinosa. Sario Barain, Alberto Taulé, Carlos Rosas. There's just a whole list of folks, and I'm really sorry if I missed anybody, but
Lourdes Montgomery.
We could go on.
We will not deny the fact that we are influenced by the secular world composers, such as, who could forget the Beatles?
Yeah.
And a lot more.
Well, I studied classical composition, so I have a deep affinity for especially impressionist composers like Ravel, Stravinsky, and Debussy. So.
Wow. Okay, last couple questions real quick. For example, what advice would you give to a pastor who is looking at starting a Hispanic ministry at their parish and want to give equal attention to the Spanish Mass? Sometimes it's considered as an afterthought, or something is not a necessity. I'm not sure if I'm making it really clear, but you want this liturgy to be just important as the others, and you want to give the same attention. And I know there's a lot more resources today than there were probably 5 years ago. What advice that you would say, hey, this is really what you need to do in order to put all these things together so you can have a good program? And maybe one person can't not do it all. Like most parishes, will hire one Hispanic ministry coordinator, and they have to create a whole church to themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is that the pastor would have to know that this is a journey. This is a journey of, knocking over stereotypes, of knocking over bad impressions, that type of journey. I think the tools are just that, just tools, but they need to be put into the hands of the right people. So I can give you examples. My experience is that you would need to have that at least, give yourself at least 5 to 10 years to just even get to know the people, so you would need time, resource, and energy to really get to that point. One of the examples that I don't know what to call it, but, in my experience, when one of the point of arrivals, I guess you could call it, is that when the English community and the Spanish community begin to know each other and see the gifts. So in other words, the English community is not complaining about this Hispanic community taking over their church, and the Hispanic community is not complaining about the Anglos making all the decisions. But they begin to look at each other and say, hey, Jose is a wonderful carpenter. Let's call him to get this job done. Or vice versa. The Hispanic community will say, John is a fabulous organizer and has a great sense of justice for distributing resource. That is, to me, one of the points where you truly begin to have a community and not two groups trying to use the same space.
Wow. And last question real quick. How would you like to be remembered in 100 years from now?
Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible story. And I have to let you know that Stella had to leave. She had another prior commitment. I would like to be remembered as a person who was dedicated to expanding ministry within the church. I would like to be remembered as a person who was certain that he spent all his time pursuing the right things in life. I'd like to be remembered as a person who was loyal and who gave his all to his commitments. Yeah, I would love to say, I'd like to be remembered as the greatest musician in the world. But, as I grow older, it's not that important to me anymore. I think really, coming back to the whole sense of our album title, I would like to be remembered as a person who sought to bring light into darkness.
Wow.
I think that's what comes in.
Well said. I really appreciate you coming on to the program and sharing all your information from Floricanto to the culture to the language and everything. Thank you so much. And again, on OCP, your latest album title?
Brille tu luz en medio de las tinieblas. Brille tu luz. You could visit ocp.org, www.ocp.org, and look up either Brille tu luz or Rudy or Stella, and you'll find us. You can also call 1-800-LITURGY, 1-800-LITURGY, and ask for either Stella or myself, or ask for the album. The good folks here will lead you in the right direction.
Okay, and spell out liturgy for some people, because it's what? L-I-T-U-R-G-Y.
Oh, liturgy. L-I-T-U-R-G-Y. L-I-T-U-R-G-Y.
Okay, 1-800. Well, thank you, Rudy. I appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you so much.
Tim, it was a pleasure, and I truly believe that God brings people together for, puts them in the right places, and I truly believe that He put you in my, on my path. So thank you, God, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Again, it's been another production of The Core Business Show with Tim J. You can download this episode on iTunes, on Blog Talk Radio, and also is on Stitcher and many other podcasts. I'm going to go and play a couple of tracks from Rudy real quick, and then we'll sign off with the show. Everybody, thank you for listening. It's Tim J., your host with The Core Business Show.
Thank you for listening to The Core Business Show with Tim J. For more information about equipment financing and asset-based loans, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. Or call us at 866-611-7457. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. And thanks again for listening to The Core Business Show with Tim J.